All right, hello everybody. Is this microphone working? Somebody nod or yep, okay, good. So welcome to the very first, following our endorsement by RDA, the Earth and Environmental Sciences Data Community of Practice. Whoa, we did it! That's amazing. So let us get going on. And of course, the land where we are, this beautiful place that we are in for Brisbane, we acknowledge and celebrate the first Australians on these traditional lands where we're meeting, and we pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and thank them so, so much. I have actually learned that I met people who are not yet actually RDA members that are here at this meeting. So I want to welcome you all. Just in case some of you might be in this room right now, RDA membership is free. If you are an individual, if you're an organization, that's a little bit different story. That's how we fund RDA, through the Organizational Assembly membership. But if you are a single person and you have not yet joined RDA, it is free. And this is your opportunity to go ahead, get registered, and head over to the Community of Practice. There's only 2, so they're easy to find. And go ahead and sign up for your membership here, or join our mailing list and be part of this incredible fun. This is how international collaboration works. It's RDA. This is how we harmonize on ideas. We create recommendations. They're vetted in a way that is one of the best ways to vet new best practices that is very inclusive and an opportunity to give back. And it's, gosh, one of my favorite meetings. So, and my favorite people are here. So please join RDA. Okay, for our agenda today, yay, we have launched the Community of Practice. Lesley's going to do a quick review of the Community of Practice. We have 2 lightning talks, and then we move on to our talk from Mark, the understanding of what's required to build, sustain, and discover science information standards, and then we will go into some group discussions, breakout sessions. Danie's going to do a report back, and then I close you out with 3 key takeaways, and I'll let you know what those are when we get there. So, Lesley, are you heading this way? Oh, this is me launching. Okay. Lesley's heading this way. She told me, just talk for a minute, Shelley. So the Community of Practice is considered as like an umbrella type organization here at RDA, bringing together all of the different work necessary for each recommendation, tuning it to our discipline within the Earth and Space Sciences. And you know what? I'm a little bit remiss. My name is Shelley Stahl, and I'm affiliated with the American Geophysical Union. I'm our Vice President for Open Science Leadership, and if you're associated with Earth and Space Sciences, you are part of the community that I care about. So thank you very much for being here. Lesley, did you want me to say anything more about the community practice? Oh,
it's our first meeting.
I did say that earlier. Okay. It's our first meeting. I'll let you carry on. Okay,
so
there we go.
The history of this group, sorry, it's the last session that I'm involved in. And let's get serious. This group actually started out, I think, in Montreal in, 2017, as the Earth, Space and Environmental Science interest group. And is Mark here? It used to be, no, the other Mark Parsons. It was actually a combined ESEP RDA group. Anyway, we sort of got bigger and bigger, and we reformed as the Community of Practice, because in the ARDC structure that gives us more scope, and we've brought on some new chairs, including Emmanuel from Germany, Elise from the UK, and Pedro from Brazil. And we also have, what's it from Costa Rica? Gabby, okay? But just to remind you, and I'm not game to try and go and show you those, we have 2 catalogues which we've been running for a while. They need cleaning up because some of the earlier ones on it are now defunct. But the first one gives a massive list, and every RDA plenary, someone adds their group to it. And so the first one is just a catalogue of groups working on earth and environmental sciences, and I am going to add another column to that which starts distinguishing between the defunct and the ones that are still alive. And likewise, a while back when we first started, everyone said that in the interest group, you've got to work on vocabularies. And so we've just got this other catalogue that people regularly add to, which is vocabularies, ontologies, and semantic resources. So I just wanted to confirm that we've brought the two of them across into the community of practice, and they are definitely going to continue and hopefully grow. So, come on. How do I get the net? How to use this? Is it better?
Hit escape just in case, and then you should be able to do it.
So what we're going to do is now hop into two lightning presentations. These are what you call late breaking items that Mark and Joseph asked if they can put that in. So again, for our future meetings, if you want a late breaking item, just let me know and we'll squash you in. Okay, so Joseph, and then we'll go to Mark.
Okay, thank you. I'm Joseph Gum. I am working for ESEP for the next 5.5 months, and then I'll need a new job. So if anyone has a job to offer, please come and talk to me. Yeah, Earth, space, environmental data, or world heritage, all of us. This is the Earth, Space, and Environmental Science COP, so it's pretty fitting. And so we started this project called Impactful Datasets, formed shortly after Inauguration Day. What data might be at risk of being lost? There was a report in December, late 2024, about words that should be flagged that we shouldn't be talking about anymore, and that includes climate change and clean energy. And this is just a report for the US. If you're outside the US, you can still say them as much as you want. And so leading voices will continue to speak up for the leading data sets, the biggest ones that are very important. But how do we give the rest of the community a voice in nominating data sets that might be smaller but just as important in disciplines or sub-disciplines that are emerging but aren't well known yet, and they still need to be cared for as well. And so we came up with trying to figure out what the most impactful data sets are. We want a democratic process for the community to nominate impactful data sets, but we still need to figure out what that criteria was. So we tapped into ESEP, Earth Science Information Partners. There were meetings over the course of a month or so to develop the criteria. There's a lot of debate when developing the criteria about what counts, how are we going to put all of this heterogeneous data together. Some people wanted certain ontologies or vocabularies. Other sets of data did not use those vocabularies, ontologies, formats, blah, blah, blah. And so we came up with this very simple selection criteria. A data set should be publicly accessible. Anybody should be able to get to it. Open science should be fair, or as close to fair for data sets that were produced before FAIR was a thing, and it should be legally usable. It's one thing if it's publicly out there and it's fair, but if there's a proprietary license and you're not sure if you can use it, it's still not very useful to the rest of the scientific community. A data set is not dark data. It's not something that you have privately or on hard drives or just logs or emails. If we can't verify or have some sort of link to it, then how do we know that's really a data set? How can anybody else really use it? It's not an instrument. It's not, say, a microwave sounder or thermistors, instruments, bless you, Instruments may make all these good data sets that we want to use, but if I was to tell an upcoming grad student, oh, just look at microwave sounders and you can do some science with that, they will have no idea where to start. And a data set is not a technique, say something like spectral analysis. Again, we're really focusing on something that somebody can pull down and work with right away. And in addition to that, the submitter needs to state why the data set is impactful to them. My background is in physical oceanography. I know nothing about solid earth sciences. I'm in no place to judge whether or not this is important to you or by some arbitrary metric, just as an example. So what does impactful mean? When we put out the nomination form, and the nomination form, there will be a link to it at the end. We looked at this report from AGU, Geoscience in Action, where they're trying to advance 3 out of, I think, 5 UN Sustainable Development Goals. The 3 that they thought they could really impact are people, planet, and prosperity. And I won't read the whole thing because it's a lightning talk, but really, we wanted people to think about what are impactful data sets for science, for society, for all. And one of the submitters, nominators, had this quote that I think very well captures like what we wanted some of the nominators to put. That during the summer, I use this data set almost daily, both as a citizen to protect my family's health and as a scientist to understand where, when are the greatest smoke impacts each year. People are quite welcome to put much longer descriptions if they want, but this is something short and sweet that can get the point across to people, whether you are a scientist or not a scientist, just a general member of the public. And so while we were putting this idea together, this project together, we realized that any list of impactful data sets that we make may have the risk of that data set being lost, whether they lose access or something mysteriously happens to them, or Doge just comes in and shuts it down. That risk of losing access to it, at least, may increase immediately. So we wanted to make sure that there was information needed to replicate it immediately, as soon as the list is out, for people to go out and do some rescue, replication, what have you. Sort of standard metadata best practices. I won't read the list again. And we have the nomination form here. We wanted to make sure it was easy to use, but thorough. There's the QR code if you'd like to actually submit a data set. Yeah. And so the cutoff for nominations is the 20th of October. There will be a commentary that will be released in AGU Advances, November 2025. The special collection of all the nominated data sets will also be nominated, and checked data sets will be released in late 2025 again in Earth and Space Sciences. There will be presentations at AGU in New Orleans. And we've been thinking about the future, thinking about maybe there should be annual runs of asking the community what they think are impactful data sets, whether that be in the history or now, and maybe we can do some interesting bibliomatic open science sort of analysis of it in the future. Thank you. And I turn it over to Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Parsons. I am the interim director for the Earth Science Information Partners, an organization of data repositories, data professionals, data application developers, private companies, academic centers, federal labs, etc., that is working to a world where data-driven solutions are a reality for all, making Earth science data actionable by all who need them anytime, anywhere. All data, anytime, anywhere. We do this by empowering innovative use and stewardship of Earth science data to solve our planet's greatest challenges. Sorry. We operate under a set of core values, much like RDA's principles. I find having core values or principles really helpful. They bind the community and they help guide you through difficult decisions. So our values are integrity, inclusiveness, collaboration, openness, and perhaps the most fun one, curiosity. So we do these things through biannual meetings twice a year, one online, similar to RDA, one online, one in person, ongoing virtual collaborations, and some small seed grants through what we call our ESEP labs. It's very low barrier to entry. It's a similar model to RDA, although it predates RDA by about 15 years. But I would say it's even a lower barrier to entry than RDA. Anybody can start up a cluster anytime. It's very congenial, very, very open, very welcoming. And our sessions tend to be very doing things. We collaborate. We don't just have talks. And we really discourage just a series of presentations. Each little breakout is like a little workshop in its own right, trying to solve some problem. And we've been doing this, like I say, for about 27 years. We were originally funded by NASA and NOAA in response to a National Academy study that said NASA needed to collaborate better with other earth science organizations because NASA was just entering earth science at that point. But we've broadened now to a much broader sector of players. But we have been historically very much a US-centered organization. And now we're thinking about slowly going international. We've actually been working with Australia now for quite a number of years. I didn't realize it went back to May 2018, but that's because, you know, COVID years are weird years. And we're sort of wondering, should Europe be next? And the way it's worked in Australia, we've sort of tried to accommodate them where possible to have like different meeting times, to accommodate different time zones. But I think more importantly, Australia sort of formed its own little earth science community, informal community, that over time has actually become more formalized. I don't think ESEP deserves all the credit for that, but I think it was sort of a push to help with that regard. And so we've been thinking a little bit about how we might reach out to Europe. My predecessor, Susan Shingeldecker, was at the European Geophysical Union, where we held what we call our data help desk. We started this at the American Geophysical Union meeting, and now we've done it at a variety of different meetings. And it's just what it sounds like. It's a desk for researchers to come and learn about, you know, what's this data citation thing that I have to deal with? My repository says I have to follow these guidelines, you know. So it's meant to be that. It's actually turned out to be pretty popular. It used to be something that ESEP supported directly. It's now a cluster that's run by the volunteers. So I had a little call with a handful of Europeans who had expressed interest a couple weeks ago. That was one of the items that we thought as possible areas of collaboration. Another key area of collaboration is something we call scienceonschema.org. This is actually a foundational piece of the CODATA CDIF standard, and that actually came out of ESEP, this using schema.org to enable cross-repository data discovery. The Polar community has also adopted this quite well. COPDES, you may have heard from Lesley and others, is the Coalition of Publishers in Earth and Space Sciences. That is also found a home in ESEP. So ESEP is a place for sort of lost collaborations, I guess. Another suggestion was trying to break down silos, particularly in the climate space, and really making climate data more actionable. We have a number of clusters. Clusters are somewhat akin to working groups or interest groups that are looking at, for example, wildfires or disaster preparation. You know, modeling data should be fitting into that. How do we do that? And then this notion of hub and spoke meetings. Australia did this at our last meeting in July, and I think it worked out really well. They actually brought people together in Canberra and attended some of the meeting online, but because of time zones, they then watched recordings of some of the sessions afterwards when it was more congenial to their time. But then they had the face-to-face interaction amongst themselves, but then the interaction with the broader US community. It was a neat experiment. I think it worked well. I think we'd like to try this maybe in other regions. And then finally, we see this as a natural fit with this community of practice. I didn't realize until 5 minutes ago that ESEP RDA collaboration was what led to this, so I guess we want to refoster that again. So that's just a little introduction to ESEP. If you're interested to learn more, please talk to me. I'm going to be hanging around after this just for a little coffee klatsch, grab a coffee, come chat, see if there's areas that you'd like to collaborate. I'm willing to try and work with ESEP to accommodate things like time zones, having sessions at our meetings that would be more congenial. So yeah, come talk to me. Oh, last point. Our next meeting is in January. Call for sessions is open now. Should have put the website up. It's esipfed, ESIPFED.org. Thank you.
Okay, so for those of you who are new in our meetings, we usually have a deep dive on a topic, and we usually have a deep dive on a particular topic. And one of the things that's been suggested going forward for the community of practice, which will be one of the topics of our breakouts, is that we start to try and coordinate better on standards, or look at those standards we need for interoperability of our data. And I'd like to invite a former colleague of mine from Geoscience Australia who went back home to New Zealand many, many moons ago, and he has been doing since over 20 years work with the International Union of Geological Sciences, setting up standards for the interoperability of geoscience data. So he's been doing it a long time, and we thought we'd ask him to give a presentation on his work and the bit about it's easy to build those standards, but my God, it's hard to maintain and keep them going.
Thank you, Lesley. I don't know how deep this is going to be, but we'll see how we track. So yes, Lesley says I did used to work with predecessors of Geoscience Australia. I now work in New Zealand. We've become Earth Sciences New Zealand recently. I have a geological background. I'm a geologist. I make geological maps. And I guess maps have been the pathway for me to look at, because maps are primarily about delivering information, and increasingly through the digital realm, that's how I became involved in digital map standards, and ultimately led to my progression into the international space and working with the Commission for the Management and Application of Geoscience Information. Because that's a real mouthful, we call it CGI, so I will call it CGI from this point on. So CGI is a commission, and it sits under the International Union of Geological Sciences. So there are several other commissions. Lesley's involved in some of those, and there are a number of other groups. But this is really the one that's dedicated to information and standards in particular. The way we operate, we have a council of we've got 14 people on the council, chaired by Harvey Thorlifson he's now at the University of Minnesota. And we have a number of working groups, and these working groups have been at various stages highly active, and some now are probably inactive, partly because they've achieved pretty much the work they set out to do. The work that we've been doing has been going on for nearly 25 years in an international sense. We built off some early standards work by the North Americans, for example, and some of the Europeans, but we became truly international sometime in the early 2000s. And so principally through the GeoSciML standards working group and ultimately what became the Geoscience Terminology Working Group, which is responsible for the vocabs. And we now have a number of active working groups in the Earth Resource ML. So this is relating to mineral and mining related geoscience. And then there's the DDE Standards Task Group, which is interfacing with the Deep Time Digital Earth Project, which is a major historical big data system, which is run through the IUGS parent. So in terms of our standards, what we've... Sorry, I just had a thought. So our standards, so I guess these are generic notes in terms of why did we produce standards, and these are sort of messages that we can impart to the rest of the communities outside of our domain. And basically it's, you need to have a purpose, obviously, so what are the standards for? And the way that they get achieved is by embedding them into impactful projects. And this has been our experience. So it's all very well having a project, an idea about a standard, but unless you've got a signature project to embed them into, you really are going to struggle to get traction on them. And the impactful projects in the geoscience space is the One Geology initiative, which had this concept of geological surveys around the world federating their local geology into a portal which enabled a viewer to look at geology across borders. And so this was a major initiative around the 2010 sort of time, and it really was a catalyst for geological surveys to lift their information game, develop the standards across the board. So these were the vocabularies, but it was also the data exchange model as well. You need to know who your community is. So what is the community you're targeting? And you need to involve and reflect the diversity in that community. So CGI have been very collegial in that sense. We've got a wide membership. We encourage different points of view, and a lot of our end results are consensual. So we've come to an agreement on what should be in a vocabulary, for example, through a process of discussion and working out. So it does reflect the community we're trying to serve. So we do have certain geographical biases in our group, and it's very hard to avoid that. A lot of it's relating to the ability of participants to be involved. So getting African or South American input has been a lot harder than, say, getting European input. And we need to be resourced, and this speaks to probably the problem that Lesley was alluding to, is that we struggle to get resource. If you've got that big flagship project like the One Geology happening, then there is countries are on board, they're bringing resources to the table, and those resources are not just financial, but it's the in-kind contributions of their staff. So you can get the science domain experts that you need, but you're also getting the information people you need. And of course, a little bit of funding is pretty useful when it comes to having in-person meetings and such like. One thing that CGI has done comparatively well, other than producing our standards, which I must say are fairly mature, is that we have this governance. And so this governance is actually really important for trying to steer us through the times when there aren't these projects which can catalyse that standards development. So the governance is currently, we're in a bit of a trough right now in the scheme of things, so we don't have a lot of activity going on, but we still have that ongoing governance structure. And so we're sort of hanging out for the time when there's going to be that fresh project, that big idea that comes along and then creates that enthusiasm to generate more standards or apply them and make them better. I think I'll probably just keep going on that one. I guess, sorry, and in terms of that development thing, that happens in those periods of funding, but in those periods of non-funding, those quiet times, there are still ongoing issues around the maintenance and the update processes. So vocabularies, for example, they don't stay static, or they shouldn't, because there's always new ideas, new terms needing to be added, new technologies needing to be adopted. So you can't sit still and continue to serve up the same stuff. You really do have to be refreshing those vocabularies. And so, in terms of discovering our science, our vocabularies, they're SCOS-enabled, they're publicly available through a server hosted by Geoscience Australia, and they are findable. There are metadata on each standard, and they're machine readable, so that they have that penetration into the community. But I guess in some ways that's almost not enough. People still have to know where to find them, that they exist, and I'm not sure that we're doing that aspect of it well. So I think CGI does need to get into a promotion loop as well. We're also looking at trying to create a catalogue of our services, standards, and that will be coming up hopefully in the next year. So there is a little bit of developmental work happening in space. And ultimately, I'd like to see some of those catalogues that reside for, say, geoscience can be part of a wider register which links into other domains. So you can have your biological sciences with their catalogues, for example. So I think ultimately it would be nice to see some leadership, global leadership, in terms of building some sort of global registry of science data standards. I think that was it. That was it. I apologise, Lesley. I didn't show you that picture.
I'm back to complain why you didn't show it.
It must have, yeah. So anyway, sorry about that.
No, we'll put it in the notes. Mark had a lovely slide that showed the progressive levels of funding over the 20 years, and it was doing that. And it really got over the message to you when you get in the standards game. Keeping it going is totally dependent on the money, on the, having funding. And it's not just supposed the funding, it's when you get a project and you really start signing up to things, you got something external that's forcing you to do the deliverables. And so I'd always argue, because I was with GeoSciML for a long time, that our best activities always when we had our funders screaming at us for deliverables. But anyway, has anyone got any questions of Mark while he's here?
Yep, Shelley does.
I don't have a microphone.
Mark, thanks so much. That was really fantastic. So this domain-specific catalog you're talking about here, I'm super keen about that. There's a number of organizations working on things like that. How are you going to determine what's going to be included?
So in terms of the geoscience one, it's coming through CGI's own resources. So we have our terminology working group who've developed these standards, and the other standards coming to pass. So as a collective, as the council, if you like, is going to make decisions on what should be shown on that site. Because it's a geoscience weighted catalogue, we are going to be open to exposing other people's, other organisations, other groups' standards if they so wish. For example, there are communities which look at international mineralogical names, mineral names, for example. So, we could invite them to be part at least listed on this catalogue. But it would be probably still restricted to that geoscience domain. But that's where I think there's a role for a higher level cross-science domain registry of catalogues. And so each of your domains can be part of that registry as well.
Could you keep us updated as you make progress? That would be great.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
I'll just add that those obnoxious 1G chemists have got into it already. because this is just something that's missing, and I knew these guys had this catalogue, and we've asked, can it be expanded? So certainly in the Deep Time Digital Earth project, which is part of World Fair and CDF, that's something we're looking into, because yeah, it's great to develop the standards, but you need them in a catalogue somewhere so someone can find them. And there aren't many around that do it. So any more questions of Mark? Okay, well, look, we might move on to the breakouts now. And as I said, as we're a community of practice, I think we now have 7 co-chairs representing pretty well every continent. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Emmanuel, Alice, and Pedro, if you could come up on the stage and give your quick lightning pitch. And then I'm not quite sure how we'll do it, whether these are the topics we want to discuss, and then we'll have breakout sessions or self-organise ourselves around these topics. So I'm not sure which one of you is first in the list.
Yeah, I think I'll go first, right? Yeah, so we'll have 3 or 4, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure. There was one for the virtual crowd, I think, right?
Well, there is no virtual crowd.
That's, okay, so we have 3 breakout sessions. So this is kind of the activity part. So we have these 3 topics. I'll be leading the practical topics issue, so we'll take a look at, what are the actually things we want to do, and do we have any use cases or examples? There's Pedro going next. I just do all of them, right? Is that okay? Okay, so Pedro is going to deal with the community of practice relation to the RDA, what other groups are there, how can we avoid to duplicate, or vice versa, also get these things into action. I mean, that's also like kind of a big issue, to take a look at community recommendations and see how can we put them into practice. And Alice is going to take a look at the national, regional distribution, how we can, I think, motivate other groups to join us, not necessarily the traditional RDA people, but also like the practitioners, ESEP people who are actually getting things done. Yeah, I think that's what we aim to talk about, and I think the idea was that each of us picks a corner and we take a look who of you shows up and wants to talk about what topic. So I don't know, can you just get an idea of who of you would be coming for Group A? Just raise your arm for the general topic. Or did you pick any of those? And then who's going to visit Group B? Cool. And Group C? I assume that's the rest. Huh?
The best one.
The best one, right. Okay, great. But that's a good spread. So I would just suggest we go there, we pick these 3 corners there, and then just sit there together and figure out. How many minutes? We have 40 minutes, was that right? I don't exactly know where we stand at the moment.
Danie, you're going to do the coordination, so if you could, sorry, not the coordination, you're going to do the report back, so.
I don't know how I'm going to report back from all, do you want me to sit and hit all 3? Or maybe the 3 groups?
Just facilitate the
I can facilitate that, that's fine.
So
Where should we be capturing,
We have the collaborative notes, and the collaborative notes, I think.
Yeah, there's the session notes. Yeah.
Right.
did we share that with everybody?
Yeah, sorry.
It's on the program. If you go to the program, it's in there.
And everybody can have, at least in each group, we have a rapporteur, right?
Right. Let us go.
Lesley is here, we can stay here. Stay here, please. You were in Group C, right? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, A? Yeah, it's got A.
Over there.
Someone's playing, please.
Yeah, it's likely German words. All righty. That brings us to the end of our breakout session. If you heard me, wave your hand. Thanks, team. Oop, one over here. All right. Breakout A, come on over. Breakout B, come on up. Oh, snap. Look at that. Repertoire A.
What are we doing? We're coming up there? I mean, it's just reciting the.
Sure. You can do this if you want.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then I'll pass the mic around.
Yeah. Yep.
Is it on? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna come back to my team over here because they're gonna fill in all the gaps that I leave. Unintentionally. Okay, so I think we started with a couple of seed questions, and I'll read them out to you so you understand where we started from. The first question is, what do you expect from a community of practice? Then, which activities would you prioritize? Which activities would you personally participate in? And do you know other communities of practice out there which could be used as models? So we had a lot of discussion just around the first one or two questions. We never even got to the subsequent questions. But from what do you expect from a community of practice, really the main piece, does that not match what you have, Shelley? Go up one more. Go up one more. There you go. So that's where we started. And we came to the consensus that it should be, it should really be a place to convene. It should be sort of the town square where you share ideas, where you gain following toward a particular problem or solving common problems. And people will seek this community of practice out for guidance. It should be a nucleation point for converging on directions in which you invest your effort. Let's see. And if it's expected that the community of practice will serve as a coordinating body of activities, something a la ESEP-ish, then we would expect to be able to answer the questions like who will be doing what, who will be doing the thing, and how long will that take, and what resources will be needed. And through all of this, there's a desire to look across domain, look at a cross-domain problem. So we had conversations that ESEP is a great model, but ESEP has the underlying infrastructure that supports people getting things done. It's kind of unclear whether the community of practice will have that in an RDA space. Let's see, what else? Which activities would you prioritize? We didn't quite get into a list of activities and a prioritization exercise, but calling for a meeting or a first town hall of some sort to identify and collect challenges and problems and start a dialogue to see what bubbles up as a priority. Before we get to the prioritizing type activities, we would need a space to share those experiences, find consensus on problems to attack, coordinate the formation of project groups, bring together those who are ready to build collaborative projects for funding calls, things like that. Did we get any farther than those questions? I don't think so, but I'm just gonna throw the mic up in the air, and anybody that has anything else to contribute from my side is going to do so now.
I think that were very good. I mean, those are very good points, but I want to emphasize that really the resource question is a crucial one. If we want to do this all in the context of the RDA, we will stay, more or less where we are. But if we plan to expand that in any kind, we need to sit together and see, maybe follow up the discussion we had on the last ESEP meeting on what kind of alternative funding models we could think of. And as I said, I was in that group and we thought of, for example, in-kind funding for stuff. For who has money for like a quarter of a position to actually organize us. You know, so I think that's kind of crucial, you know, to define of how far can we reach.
Yeah, I would agree. I always imagined this community of practice would actually have a funded position that would help with the coordination and community efforts, not unlike an ESEP fellow or something to that effect. Yeah, because it would need it. So we have not yet done that.
That's all we had.
Okay, over to B. Thank you, A.
Yay. So I think actually ours, we're not as organized to have slides, but I think we actually kind of build on what you all came up with, because we were struggling a little bit about the prioritization and so forth too. And we were thinking that it really needs to be targeted to specific disciplinary communities. So earth, space, and environmental sciences is huge. And figuring out how to make RDA useful to all of those things is impossible, at least in a short term. So we thought, let's pick, like, for a year's activity, let's pick 3 very targeted disciplines. And so one that we were talking about is like citizen science monitoring of air quality. That's a big area that's going on right now. That apparently there's no standards as to how one monitors air quality. Who knew? And the way that we prioritize those disciplines where we focus is by who's going to champion it? Who cares about this issue? Is there somebody in the COP? And that's sort of like the in-kind thing. That's like, I could spend a chunk of my job doing this because it's going to advance my job and help my community. So then, all right, we've identified 2, 3, however many targeted disciplines. And then we do kind of what you all were saying, is like this sort of, bring up their slide. Their slide was good. The other one. So then, you know, we could run open forums and knowledge swaps. But to a targeted discipline, so that we, you know, it's not just an open forum of, hey, learn about earth science standards. It's learn about earth sciences in a particular application. And lather, rinse, repeat. Sorry, that's probably an Americanism. You know, do this, learn from it, do it again. Do this, learn from it, do it again. But I don't think our group entirely agrees on this approach, but I do. That having a few focal points, because that helps with the resources. It helps target what the problem is you're trying to solve, and it helps identify people who care about that issue, who want to take it forward. So, and we just do this in, like, I don't know, annual chunks or something, or you know, every in-phase plenary, you have a review. You decide this is going to be our focus for this next year, something like that, so that it gives you some targets that you can then say, okay, this community has these problems. What does RDA have that can actually help solve those problems? Oh, RDA can't solve all those problems. What are the gaps? Maybe we need to spin up a new working group.
I like it.
So
that's
that's our general approach.
Nice.
Sure.
So while I like it too. I mean, I think it's a way to bite off manageable pieces of a much broader community. While you're focused on air quality assessment for citizen science, yeah, sure. The rest of the ESES community is kind of disengaged. And then, like, how do you, so when you rotate through that and you say, hey, everybody, we've figured out the standards for air quality and citizen science, woohoo, and then you have to bring everybody back into, I'm questioning that. Like,
that's good. I mean, yes, that's a good point, and we need to work through that, and that's why I think you need to pick, you want to pick several, so that you have, you know, enough people engaged in it.
Yeah.
But I think the idea is that champion or champions for a particular topic is tapping into the others, saying, you know, but by really explaining in detail, this is what the need is. You're coming from oceanography. You don't know anything about air quality per se, but you hear this need, and it's like, oh, but yeah, I've been working in this RDA group that's been doing something that's closely related that might fit in. So yeah, it's definitely a risk that you lose engagement of some. But that's, I think, so then maybe you want to make sure you pick 3 diverse. You know, we want to do space weather, air quality, and hydrology. I don't know.
Nice. Parallel engagements. I like it. I like it. Thank you, B. Thank you. Was there a question for B?
Do B people want to add anything? Because I was...
Thumbs up on B. Good job, guys. We're short on time. Yeah. We need...
Real quickly, if there is anyone interested in citizen science and air quality, it might be a co-data topic and a good crossover with RDA.
Okay, cool.
We
So-
don't have anybody online, so you all heard that, right?
Yep. Okay, off to C.
Yes.
Whoopee!
So we discussed so the geographic and disciplinary heterogeneities.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Yeah. And so we discussed, for example, like to have a successful community of practice, we need to have an inclusive community taking into consideration the diversity and also the languages of our community. So people are talking different languages, and there is a need of translating our recommendation. And this is also emphasized by the Belmont Forum, who really emphasizes the fact that we need to translate recommendations so that it's adopted by everyone. And this might not be just an AI translation, but we need context so that we understand what we mean. And then we looked more into the FAIR principles, so findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. And we focus mainly on the interoperable and reusable, where to have FAIR, to have interoperability, we need the data to be to have also FAIR ontologies. So we discussed a lot around vocabularies and FAIR vocabularies. And for this, we need also to have endorsed vocabularies. So people who say, oh, this one is good. No, this one is maybe not used. And so to have a better understanding of the landscape of vocabularies and which one we should use. And then we had a very good discussion regarding maybe setting up a more ECR focus community as well, for more having a community around to discuss and to look at training, but also resources and discuss. But anyone in Group C want to add? Yeah.
Yeah, just one quick thing on that that ECR piece. I think, Danie, I had the same question, hesitation, whatever you want to call it, with regards to the B proposal. And I think having an ECR or early career researcher specific group that would, be focused on maybe higher level, fair advancement would help to mitigate that, and it would be something stable that sustains regardless of which individual topics the COP might be focused in on an annual or whatever basis.
Nice, nice. Thank you, C. Well done. Well done. All right, fantastic. That was us. That's what we've done. We reported back, and now we're closing out. Okay, we're at the top of the hour. There's 0 time to do our closeout. So we will go ahead and spin up the recurring meetings. There's a weird, wonky little potential thing. For those of you who are familiar with NFDI, they are very keen to join us from the Germany group. They're going to hold off because there's a conflict of interest until March. The moment we hit March, then they're going to join us. So if you know about NFDI, just know they're going to be quiet with the conflict community of practice until March, and then they'll join. Explain it later offline when we're not being recorded. And then we'll go ahead and get our meetings going so that we can dig in onto these topics that you've all been discussing. These align with a lot of the intent that we had. So you all are vibing on why the community of practice is here, and that makes me so happy. And you came at it from your own points of view, which is so perfect. And then we'll go ahead and launch these disciplinary efforts. There's a few that have been bubbled up prior to your discussion. I love the fact that we have air quality coming in from citizen science. I think that's great. And then the other thing we'll try to do is explore a funded position to help us help our engagement continue to have energy behind it and an ongoing focus so that we'll have someone who's on this all of the time and can keep us moving forward. Thank you everyone for being here. This is our inaugural Community of Practice session. And we did it. It took us like 2 years, but we got here. So thank you, everyone.